sing some tunes.
We don't, neither of us have time to learn.
Oh God, this thing is too heavy. All right. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Jai Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Bhajanaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Bhagavadgitaclass Ashtotter to the Srimad Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON BBT founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Bhagavadgitaclass Ashtotter to the Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Yes, sir. Jai Radhamadava? He wanted a quick translation of Jai Radhamadava song. I don't know. He asked for you and him, but I think it's basically him. And he just, no, you don't need to say it. Just listen. Let's listen. I'm giving the translation. Yeah, I'll give it. Yeah, I think you misunderstood. Okay, Jai we know. All glories. Radha Madhava, Radha and Krishna. Madhava is the husband of the goddess of fortune. It's the name for Krishna. Kunja Bihari. The kunjas are the very nice little groves and flowery parts in the forest of Vrindavan. They're a nice place to sit and have a picnic and meet Radha and Krishna meet. Vihari means one who enjoys. So Krishna is he who is Kunja Bihari. He enjoys in the little groves and gardens of Vrindavan with Radharani. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Now I'm not sure, but I think it could mean, maybe Vihari can be plural, that they're both enjoying in there. But anyway, that's the idea. Gopi Jana Vallabha. Now it's important to understand who's loving whom. When you say Gopi Jana Vallabha, it means that Krishna is very dear to the gopis. They love him. Gopi Jana Vallabha. That's what Vallabha means here. Giri Vadadhari. So Giri is the mountain, Vada means the best, that's in reference to Govardhan. And Dhari means one who lifts up, so it's a name for Krishna. Giri Vadadhari, he who lifts up the best of hills or Govardhan. So Gopi Jana Vallabha, Giri Vadadhari, Yashoda Nandana, these are basically all names. Yashoda Nandana, the beloved son of Yashoda. Braja Jana Ranjana, he who delights all of the people or the residents, jana of Braja. So he delights all the Brijbasis, you say, or the Brajajanas. Brajajana Ranjana. Gopijana Vallabha, Giri Badadhari, Yashoda Nandana, Brajajana Ranjana, Yamuna. Now there's two words, Yamuna, which is the river, and Yamuna means of the river Yamuna. One is the name, and then when you say it's the long A at beginning, it's of the Yamuna. So what's of the Yamuna? Yamuna Tira, the bank. That's the bank. So on the riverside, Yamuna Tira Vana Chari. Chari means he moves around and dances and enjoys in the forest on the bank of the Yamuna. Vana means forest, like Vrindavana, you see? So Yamuna Tira Vana Chari. So that's it, a bunch of names like that. And it evokes the whole mood of Vrindavan. So Prabhupada would always recite this before every class. He would sing it, and it's composed by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. It's a little song that he composed. That's the origin of it. You got it? Okay. All right. We are on the last verse of the Bhagavad Gita. We really moved along since you were on your trip. Huh? Finished? Yeah. We missed a couple of nights somehow. I forget. Some, festivals and things. Anyway, we're on page 715. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 12th day of November 2018 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are in chapter 18, the perfection of enunciation. Text 78, that's the last verse in the book, page 715. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna Yatra Partho Dhanurdaraha Tatra Shri Vijayo Bhutir Dhuvanitir Matir Mama. Okay, you okay there, Jamal? What's the problem?
Yeah.
Headaches? You all right? Okay. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna Yatra Partho Dhanurdaraha Tatra Shri Vijayo Bhutir Dhuvanitir Matir Mama. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna Yatra Partho Dhanurdaraha Tatra Shri Vijayo Bhutir Dhuvanitir Matir Mama. Go ahead, Marcy. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna Yatra Partho Dhanurdaraha Tatra Shri Vijayo Bhutir Dhuvanitir Matir Mama. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna Yatra Partho Dhanurdaraha Tatra Shri Vijayo Bhutir Dhuvanitir Matir Mama. Yatra, where, Yoga Ishwaraha, the master of mysticism, Krishnaha, Lord Krishna, Yatra, where, Parthaha, the son of Pritha, Dhanurdaraha, the carrier of the bow and arrow, Tatra, there, Shri, opulence, Vijaya, victory, Bhutihi, exceptional power, Dhruva, certain, Nitihi, morality, Matihi, Mama, my opinion. So this is Sanjay speaking at the end here. He's winding up. He's speaking to Dhritarashtra. Sanjay said, wherever there is Krishna, the master of all mystics, and wherever there is Arjuna, the supreme archer, there will also certainly be opulence, victory, extraordinary power, and morality. That is my opinion. Purport. The Bhagavad Gita began with an inquiry of Dhritarashtra's. He was hopeful of the victory of his sons, assisted by great warriors like Bhishma, Drona, and Karna. He was hopeful that the victory would be on his side. But after describing the scene on the battlefield, Sanjay told the king, "You are thinking of victory, but my opinion is that where Krishna and Arjuna are present, there will be all good fortune." He directly confirmed that Dhritarashtra could not expect victory for his side. Victory was certain for the side of Arjuna because Krishna was there. Krishna's acceptance of the post of charioteer for Arjuna was an exhibition of another opulence. Krishna is full of all opulences, and renunciation is one of them. There are many instances of such renunciation, for Krishna is also the master of renunciation. The fight was actually between Duryodhana and Yudhishthira. Arjuna was fighting on behalf of his elder brother, Yudhishthira. Because Krishna and Arjuna were on the side of Yudhishthira, Yudhishthira's victory was certain. The battle was to decide who would rule the world, and Sanjay predicted that the power would be transferred to Yudhishthira. It is also predicted here that Yudhishthira, after gaining victory in this battle, would flourish more and more, because not only was he righteous and pious, but he was also a strict moralist. He never spoke a lie during his life. There are many less intelligent persons who take the Bhagavad Gita to be a discussion of topics between two friends on a battlefield. But such a book cannot be scripture. Some may protest that Krishna incited Arjuna to fight, which is immoral. But the reality of the situation is clearly stated. The Bhagavad Gita is the supreme instruction in morality. The supreme instruction of morality is stated in the 9th chapter, in the 34th verse, Manmana bhavamad bhaktaha. One must become a devotee of Krishna, and the essence of all religion is to surrender unto Krishna. Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekang sharanam vraja. The instructions of the Bhagavad Gita constitute the supreme process of religion and of morality. All other processes may be purifying and may lead to this process, but the last instruction of the Gita is the last word in all morality and religion. Surrender unto Krishna. This is the verdict of the 18th chapter. From the Bhagavad Gita we can understand that to realize oneself by philosophical speculation and by meditation is one process, but to fully surrender unto Krishna is the highest perfection. This is the essence of the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. The path of regulative principles according to the orders of social life and according to the different courses of religion may be a confidential path of knowledge. But although the rituals of religion are confidential, meditation and cultivation of knowledge are still more confidential. And surrender unto Krishna in devotional service in full Krishna consciousness is the most confidential instruction. That is the essence of the 18th chapter. Another feature of the Bhagavad Gita is that the actual truth is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. The absolute truth is realized in three features: impersonal Brahman, localized Paramatma, and ultimately the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Perfect knowledge of the absolute truth means perfect knowledge of Krishna. If one understands Krishna, then all the departments of knowledge are part and parcel of that understanding. Krishna is transcendental, for he is always situated in his eternal, internal potency. The living entities are manifested of his energy and are divided into two classes, eternally conditioned and eternally liberated. Such living entities are innumerable, and they are considered fundamental parts of Krishna. Material energy is manifested into 24 divisions. The creation is effected by eternal time, and it is created and dissolved by the external energy. This manifestation of the cosmic world repeatedly becomes visible and invisible. In the Bhagavad Gita, 5 principal subject matters have been discussed: the Supreme Personality of Godhead, material nature, the living entities, eternal time, and all kinds of activities. All is dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. all conceptions of the absolute truth, impersonal Brahman, localized Paramatma, and any other transcendental conception, exist within the category of understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although superficially the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the living entity, material nature, and time appear to be different, nothing is different from the Supreme. But the Supreme is always different from everything. Lord Chaitanya's philosophy is that of, quote, inconceivable oneness and difference. This system of philosophy constitutes perfect knowledge of the absolute truth. We are on page 717, and we're in the last paragraph of the book. The living entity in his original position is pure spirit. He is just like an atomic particle of the Supreme Spirit. Thus Lord Krishna may be compared to the sun and the living entities to sunshine. Because the living entities are the marginal energy of Krishna, they have a tendency to be in contact with either the material energy or with the spiritual energy. In other words, the living entity is situated between the two energies of the Lord. And because he belongs to the superior energy of the Lord, he has a particle of independence. By proper use of that independence, he comes under the direct order of Krishna. Thus he attains his normal condition in the pleasure-giving potency. Thus end the Bhagavad purports to the 18th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of its conclusion, the perfection of renunciation. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshurun Midatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. Can you do me a favor? The three lights, turn this one on all the way so I can see better. I've turned it down a little bit too much. It's a little dusky in here. So this is a famous verse, Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, wherever there is the master of yoga, Krishna, and his dear friend Partha, or the bearer of the bow, there will certainly be these four things. Thank you. Shri, opulence, Vijaya, victory, Bhuti, exceptional power, and, for certain, Niti, morality. You remember the two mothers of Dhruva, the stepmother and the real mother? What were the names? Yes, Suruchi and Suniti. So Suruchi, she was more beautiful, but Suniti was more virtuous. That's what the word here is. Niti means morality or virtue. So the idea is, if you recall, and Gargamuni came and gave the names to Krishna and Balaram, he also predicted that any organization that's attached to this little boy will not know defeat and will prosper like that. So that's the same idea as that Arjuna well knew that. You remember the pastime where Duryodhana and Arjuna went to Krishna. He was sleeping. And when he woke up, he looked at Arjuna first. Whoever he looked at first, he was going to offer, they could take either him or his armies. And so Arjuna said, I'd rather have you on my side. And Duryodhana said, whoa, that was a close one. I'll take all the armies. You know, so they both felt that they had got it. But of course Arjuna had the best deal. Because ultimately, even though they were in the minority, they were outgunned. You know, Karna was actually an equal fighter to Arjuna. He was on the other side. They had Bhishma Dev. But because Krishna was on the side of Arjuna, when things got a little rough, there was a point where, what was it? Oh yeah, that Duryodhana was accusing Bhishma Dev of not fighting strong enough. So, so he said, tomorrow I will kill the 5 Pandavas. I have these special arrows, you see, and I will kill all of them, because you accuse me like that. You know, it's a heart-rending thing for a Kshatriya to be accused of not fighting to his full energy. Even though he did have great love for the Pandavas, he had sympathy, but he was being maintained by Duryodhana, so he had his loyalty there. So he had these 5 special arrows that were going to kill the Pandavas. So Duryodhana said, well, I better hold on to him, because you may have you may lose them, or someone may steal them or something, so let me hold on to them. So he did, but Krishna knew he had them. So after the sun set, the fighting would stop, the conch would blow, and then they would sometimes visit each other, even the enemy side, because there'll be no fighting after. So Krishna told Arjuna about those arrows. He said, you better go to Duryodhana and ask him for them. And so, because they would receive each other, Duryodhana said, oh, Arjuna, have you come to ask me for the kingdom? You can have it if you want it, because he knew Arjuna wouldn't do that. That's shameful for a Kshatriya. Kshatriya doesn't beg, see. So I said, no, we're going to fight, but give me those 5 arrows. Duh. So he gave him the 5 arrows. But still, Bhishma Dev had vowed that either Krishna will break his promise or I will kill Arjuna tomorrow. So he was fighting with full force, and he was the chief of all the fighters. He was, even though he was an old man, he was so powerful, he had so many weapons and skills. So Arjuna was at the point of being defeated. I think his chariot was destroyed, a wheel was shut. So Krishna jumps off the chariot, he grabs one of the wheels, and it becomes like his chakra, and he heads toward Bhishma Dev. And Bhishma says, oh, yes, I'll be killed by Krishna. He's standing there. But then the conch flew, and he wasn't killed. So when things got difficult, Krishna was always there to back them up. And it said just by his looking over at the other side, he weakened them, and he assured the victory. In fact, he says that in the 11th chapter, if you recall. They're already killed, you just be my instrument. Nimitta matram bhavasavisacha. So this is important for us. I mean, when you look back at the history of this movement, and you see how impossible it was what Prabhupada did. He was really just sailing out and completely at the mercy of Krishna. And he went through so many difficulties. He practically didn't even make it across the ocean. But when it became most difficult, Krishna appears in the dream and he says, don't worry, I'll take you, I'm rowing you across the ocean. So in every turn, and we had the stroke in May of '67. It was very difficult, scene, but the devotee, he said, just chant, and the devotees on both coasts, basically the 2 temples, they were all chanting all night, Prabhupada said, that saved me. So we should have faith also that this is true. Now Prabhupada, he gives a little summary of the Gita here. And he goes over, let's see. So, the 2 friends on the battlefield, but such book can't be scripture. So really the Bhagavad Gita was inserted into the Mahabharata. The story is like that Vyasadeva, he understood that the Kali Yuga is coming, and I wrote the Vedanta, but the Kali Yugites will never be able to get into that. And even the Puranas are a little bit too philosophical. So let me write something that they'll really relish as stories. So there's all these stories in the Mahabharata. I remember I worked on the Adi Kanda years ago. At one point the BBT was thinking of publishing. And all these stories, it's like there's the main story, but then there's all these side stories that are in there, And I was realizing why. It says in the Bhagavatam, Prabhupada says, we don't really need to read the whole Mahabharata, because there's all sections of it that there's no real transcendental philosophy there. I remember this one chapter, many chapters, and it was describing, I think there's a planet of snakes, there's multi-headed snakes, and it was naming them, it was like a whole chapter just of names of the snakes. Do I need that? I mean, it's really kind of now, but within the Mahabharata, he inserts the Bhagavad Gita. So while listening to all these stories, then this most dramatic point of the, just before the battle is there, but the Bhagavad Gita comes out and for the instruction of the Kali Yugites who can't concentrate on anything. But the Bhagavad Gita is known as Gita Upanishad because it summarizes all the teachings of the Upanishads, essential. So Prabhupada goes through the different stages, a little bit here of the processes. Philosophical speculation and meditation is one process, but the surrender to Krishna is the highest perfection. The 3 features of the absolute truth, the Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, they all rest on Krishna, they all rest on Bhagavan. Then he reiterates, which he mentioned in the introduction, which we'll begin reading in a few minutes, the 5 topics, the 5 topics of the Bhagavad Gita. The Ishvara, and the Jiva, Karma, Kala, and Prakriti, and nature. So the Lord, the individual soul, material nature, activity, and time. They're dealt with in the Bhagavad Gita. And really knowing how to live within this world and act in such a way that we're moving toward extricating ourselves. That's what the essence of the Gita is. And it boils down to surrendering to Krishna. That's really what it's all about. Okay. Any questions? Let us go back, all the way back to the preface. We don't want to miss out on the preface. Actually, we could read this setting the scene. This is nice. Although widely published and read by itself, this is page Roman numeral 13. Although widely published and read by itself, the Bhagavad Gita originally appeared as an episode in the Mahabharata, the epic Sanskrit history of the ancient world. The Mahabharata tells of events leading up to the present age of Kali. It was at the beginning of this age, some 50 centuries ago, that Lord Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita to his friend and devotee Arjuna. Their discourse, one of the greatest philosophical and religious dialogues known to man, took place just before the onset of war, a great fratricidal conflict between the 100 sons of Dhritarashtra and on the opposing side their cousins, the Pandavas, or the sons of Pandu. Dhritarashtra and Pandu were brothers born in the Kuru dynasty, descending from King Bharat, a former ruler of the earth, from whom the name Mahabharata derives. Because Dhritarashtra, the elder brother, was born blind, the throne that otherwise would have been his was passed down to the younger brother, Pandu. When Pandu died at an early age, his 5 children, Yudhishthira, Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula, and Sahadev, came under the care of Dhritarashtra, who in effect became, for the time being, the king. Thus the sons of Dhritarashtra and those of Pandu grew up in the same royal household. Both were trained in the military arts by the expert Drona and counseled by the revered grandfather of the clan, Bhishma. Yet the sons of Dhritarashtra, especially the eldest, Duryodhana, hated and envied the Pandavas, and the blind and weak-minded Dhritarashtra wanted his own sons, not those of Pandu, to inherit the kingdom. Thus Duryodhana, with Dhritarashtra's consent, plotted to kill the young sons of Pandu, and it was only by the careful protection of their uncle Vidura and their cousin Lord Krishna that the Pandavas escaped the many attempts against their lives. Now, Lord Krishna was not an ordinary man, but the Supreme Godhead himself, who had descended to earth and was playing the role of a prince in a contemporary dynasty. In this role, he was also the nephew of Pandu's wife Kunti, or Prita, the mother of the Pandavas. So both as a relative and as the eternal upholder of religion, Krishna favored the righteous sons of Pandu and protected them. Ultimately, however, the clever Duryodhana challenged the Pandavas to a gambling match. In the course of that fateful tournament, Duryodhana and his brothers took possession of Draupadi, the chaste and devoted wife of the Pandavas, and insultingly tried to strip her naked before the entire assembly of princes and kings. Krishna's divine intervention saved her, but the gambling, which was rigged, cheated the Pandavas of their kingdom and forced them into 13 years of exile. Upon returning from exile, the Pandavas rightfully requested their kingdom from Duryodhana, who bluntly refused to yield it. Duty-bound as princes to serve in public administration, the 5 Pandavas reduced their request to a mere 5 villages. But Duryodhana arrogantly replied that he wouldn't spare them enough land into which to drive a pin. Throughout all this, the Pandavas had been consistently tolerant and forbearing, but now war seemed inevitable. Nonetheless, as the princes of the world divided, some siding with the sons of Dhritarashtra, others with the Pandavas, Krishna himself took the role of messenger for the sons of Pandu and went to the court of Dhritarashtra to plead for peace. When his pleas were refused, war was now certain. The Pandavas, men of the highest moral stature, recognized Krishna to be the supreme personality of Godhead, whereas the impious sons of Dhritarashtra did not. Yet Krishna offered to enter the war according to the desire of the antagonists. As God, he would not personally fight, but whoever so desired might avail himself of Krishna's army, and the other side could have Krishna himself as an advisor and helper. Duryodhana, the political genius, snatched at Krishna's armed forces, while the Pandavas were equally eager to have Krishna himself In this way, Krishna became the charioteer of Arjuna, taking it upon himself to drive the fabled bowman's chariot. This brings us to the point at which the Bhagavad Gita begins, with the two armies arrayed, ready for combat, and Dhritarashtra anxiously inquiring of his secretary Sanjay, what did they do? The scene is set, with only the need for a brief note regarding this translation and commentary. The general pattern translators have followed in rendering the Bhagavad Gita into English has been to brush aside the person Krishna to make room for their own concepts and philosophies. The history of the Mahabharata is taken as quaint mythology, and Krishna becomes a poetic device for presenting the ideas of some anonymous genius, or at best he becomes a minor historical personage. But the person Krishna is both the goal and the substance of the Bhagavad Gita, so far as the Gita speaks of itself. This translation, then, and the commentary that accompanies it, propose to direct the reader to Krishna rather than away from him. The Bhagavad Gita thus becomes wholly consistent and comprehensible. Since Krishna is the speaker of the Gita and its ultimate goal as well, the Bhagavad Gita as it is presents this great scripture in its true terms. The publishers. That was written by Jayadvaita Swami. So, preface. Should I begin? Originally, I wrote the Bhagavad Gita as it is, in the form in which it is presented now. When this book was first published, the original manuscript was, unfortunately, cut short to less than 400 pages, without illustrations and without explanations for most of the original verses of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. In all of my other books, Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Ishopanishad, etc., the system is that I give the original verse, its English transliteration, word-for-word Sanskrit English equivalents, translations and purports. This makes the book very authentic and scholarly and makes the meaning self-evident. I was not very happy, therefore, when I had to minimize my original manuscript. Oh, God, I forgot to return this. All right. Okay. But later on, when the demand for the Bhagavad Gita as it is considerably increased, I was requested by many scholars and devotees to present the book in its original form. Thus, the present attempt is to offer the original manuscript of this great book of knowledge with full parampara explanation in order to establish the Krishna consciousness movement more soundly and progressively. Our Krishna consciousness movement is genuine, historically authorized, natural, and transcendental due to its being based on Bhagavad Gita as it is. It is gradually becoming the most popular movement in the entire world, especially among the younger generation. It is becoming more and more interesting to the older generation also. Older gentlemen are becoming interested, so much so that the fathers and grandfathers of my disciples are encouraging us by becoming life members of our great society, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. In Los Angeles, many fathers and mothers used to come to see me to express their feelings of gratitude for my leading the Krishna consciousness movement throughout the entire world. Some of them said that it is greatly fortunate for the Americans that I have started the Krishna consciousness movement in America. But actually, the original father of this movement is Lord Krishna himself, since it was started a very long time ago, but is coming down to human society by disciplic succession. If I have any credit in this connection, it does not belong to me personally, but is due to my eternal spiritual master, His Divine Grace, Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya 108 Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada. If personally I have any credit in this matter, it is only that I have tried to present the Bhagavad Gita as it is, without any adulteration. Before my presentation of the Bhagavad Gita as it is, almost all the English editions of the Bhagavad Gita were introduced to fulfill someone's personal ambition. But our attempt in presenting Bhagavad Gita as it is to present the mission of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Our business is to present the will of Krishna, not that of any mundane speculator like the politician, philosopher, or scientist, for they have very little knowledge of Krishna, despite all their other knowledge. When Krishna says, Manmana bhava madbhakto, madhyaji mam namaskuru, etc., we, unlike the so-called scholars, do not say that Krishna and his inner spirit are different. Krishna is absolute, and there is no difference between Krishna's name, Krishna's form, Krishna's qualities, Krishna's pastimes, etc. This absolute position of Krishna is difficult to understand for any person who is not a devotee of Krishna in the system of parampara or disciplic succession. Generally, the so-called scholars, politicians, philosophers, and swamis, without perfect knowledge of Krishna, try to banish or kill Krishna when writing commentary on the Bhagavad Gita. Such unauthorized commentary about the Bhagavad Gita is known as Mayavad Bhashya, and Lord Chaitanya has warned us about these unauthorized men. Lord Chaitanya clearly says that anyone who tries to understand the Bhagavad Gita from the Mayavadi point of view will commit a great blunder. The result of such a blunder will be that the misguided student of the Bhagavad Gita will certainly be bewildered on the path of spiritual guidance and will not be able to go back home back to guided. Our only purpose is to present this Bhagavad Gita as it is in order to guide the conditioned student to the same purpose for which Krishna descends to this planet once in a day of Brahma, or every 8,600,000,000 years. This purpose is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, and we have to accept it as it is. Otherwise, there is no point in trying to understand the Bhagavad Gita and its speaker. Lord Krishna first spoke the Bhagavad Gita to the sun god some hundreds of millions of years ago. We have to accept this fact and thus understand the historical significance of the Bhagavad Gita without misinterpretation on the authority of Krishna. To interpret the Bhagavad Gita without any reference to the will of Krishna is the greatest offense. In order to save oneself from this offense, one has to understand the Lord as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as he was directly understood by Arjuna, Lord Krishna's first disciple. Such understanding of the Bhagavad Gita is really profitable and authorized for the welfare of human society in fulfilling the mission of life. The Krishna consciousness movement is essential in human society, for it offers the highest perfection of life. How this is so is explained fully in the Bhagavad Gita. Unfortunately, mundane wranglers have taken advantage of the Bhagavad Gita to push forward their demonic propensities and mislead people regarding right understanding of the simple principles of life. Everyone should know how God or Krishna is great, and everyone should know the factual position of the living entities. Everyone should know that a living entity is eternally a servant, and that unless one serves Krishna, one has to serve illusion in different varieties of the three modes of material nature, and thus wander perpetually within the cycle of birth and death. Even the so-called liberated Mayavadi speculator has to undergo this process. This knowledge constitutes a great science, and each and every living being has to hear it for his own interest. People in general, especially in this age of Kali, are enamored by the external energy of Krishna, and they wrongly think that by advancement of material comforts, every man will be happy. They have no knowledge that the material or external nature is very strong, for everyone is strongly bound by the stringent laws of material nature. A living entity is happily the part and parcel of the Lord, and thus his natural function is to render immediate service to the Lord. By the spell of illusion, one tries to be happy by serving his personal sense gratification in different forms, which will never make him happy. Instead of satisfying his own personal material senses, he has to satisfy the senses of the Lord. That is the highest perfection of life. The Lord wants this, and he demands it. One has to understand this central point of the Bhagavad Gita. Our Krishna consciousness movement is teaching the whole world this central point, and because we are not polluting the theme of Bhagavad Gita as it is, anyone seriously interested in deriving benefit by studying the Bhagavad Gita must take help from the Krishna consciousness movement for practical understanding of the Bhagavad Gita under the direct guidance of the Lord. We hope, therefore, that people will derive the greatest benefit by studying Bhagavad Gita as it is, as we have presented it here, and if even one man becomes a pure devotee of the Lord, we shall consider our attempt a success. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, signed 12th May 1971 in Sydney, Australia. So that's a good place to suspend it. We'll begin the introduction tomorrow. Please, go ahead. Yes, at the end of the introduction. At the end of the introduction.
Okay, Krishna's first.
Mm-hmm.
And Brahma is second.
Yep.
So it's not sequential by age or anything.
Well, Brahma's the oldest being in this universe, and he was the first being in the material being in the universe, and he didn't know what to do.
So Krishna was first.
Krishna is always first. He exists eternally. Brahma manifests on the lotus, and then he wants, he's confused. Where did I come from? What's going on? So eventually he gets initiated by Krishna, like the disembodied voice, 2 syllables, tapa, uttered 3 times. Tapa means austerity. So Brahma meditates for a long, long time, and then he gets a vision in the heart. Krishna, reveals himself, and he speaks the Brahma Samhita, Govinda Madhipurusha. And he gets, eventually, the Bhagavatam, the essence of the Bhagavatam is spoken to him. And meanwhile, he's also getting inspired to create, he's producing from his own mind the Prajapatis, those who are going to fill the worlds with beings, they're in suspended animation, then they come in and they need bodies to begin where they left off. So Brahma's headaches, he's got 4 heads. And this is the smallest Brahma. There are other universes with Brahmas with many more heads. But so we have, so then gradually, he filled, the universe is populated. And meanwhile, he has his disciplic succession. His son Narada, he teaches. Yeah, everybody is his son. I mean, so he comes, and then Narada teaches Vyas, and Vyas then writes all the literature, and it comes down to Shukadev and Madhvacharya. Madhva. Is it Madhvacharya? He's a famous figure who preached against the Mayavadis. He's a historical figure. He lived in 1400, 1300, something like that. But he went up to the Himalayas and he had direct darshan of Vyas, and he got knowledge from there. And then many of these figures we don't know so much, coming down, and then to Madhavendra Puri. Madhavendra Puri was a historical figure. He was the spiritual master of Nityananda and also Advaita. And his disciple was Ishwara Puri, who took the role of the spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya. And also the same generation of Nityananda and Advaita, they were all disciples of Madhavendra. And Lord Chaitanya's in there, see that? Then his main disciples were the 6 Goswamis, and also Srup Damodar is listed there. Yeah. This is on page 30. That's the disciplic session at the end. There are big gaps. No, not, I saw Madhva actually went up, got the reg darshan of Vyas. But there are gaps, especially when we come down here. Krishna does Naratam. And so the latter part of this disciplic succession is really a shiksha line, meaning that they're the most prominent members of the disciplic succession. They all got initiated, but there are members in between here that aren't listed, that aren't the most prominent. But basically, the knowledge is what's coming down purely through all of these, all the way down to Srila Prabhupada. Anyway, we'll discuss it. Yeah, go ahead. Narada Muni, yes.
Doesn't he show up a lot?
He does, totally.
When the baby was in
Yeah.
his wife's or granddaughter or something.
I thought you were talking about Prahlad.
They were going to kill the last baby in the line.
Oh yeah, that was Parikit, yeah. Well, I don't remember him showing up there. I mean, Krishna came to save him. I mean, that's why he's known as Parikit, because he's in the womb, and he saw Krishna in the womb, and he spent the rest of his life looking for Krishna. Parikit means searching, but by that time Krishna was anyway. He didn't see Krishna externally, but yeah, but Narada did preach to Prahlad in the womb earlier, yeah. Hiranyakashipu, and yeah. So he comes in every canto. He's very prominent, most prominent spiritual master in the whole Bhagavatam. Every canto he's there, and he always preaches just according to what the person can absorb for Krishna consciousness. There's a story where he was out in the forest and he saw these half-dead animals writhing with arrows in them. And he was very troubled by that, soft-hearted Vaishnava. Eventually he came upon a hunter who he was trained to do that. And he would go back, he would keep them fresh and everything, you know. So he said, look, okay, you're a hunter, I understand, but don't half kill the animals, you know, at least kill them outright, you know. And said, no, my father taught me like this, you know. So Narada Muni, with his mystic power, he shows him what he's due, you know, the karma that he's going to get, all the suffering that he's going to have to, all those animals are waiting to get him, you know, in hell. So the hunter, his name is Mrigari. Every ISKCON devotee calls him Mrigari. But the word is Mriga Ari. Ari means enemy of the animals. Mriga in general means animals. So the hunter, you know, is like a little chastened. And Narada, and so he asked, well, how can I be saved? He said, okay, well, give me your bow. First thing is break your bow, and I'll teach you, you know, everything. So this is the critical moment. Does he have faith? So the hunter is, you know, he breaks his bow. And Narada Muni initiates him, tells him, you just keep chanting, you know, you retire, don't worry about it, you retire to that little hut over there with your wife, and you just chant, and plant a tulsi, and I'll supply everything. So he has faith and he's chanting, you know, he becomes a bhakta. So he's completely transformed. You know, this Mrigari, who was half killing animals, he wouldn't hurt a fly, you know. So Narada Muni comes back with his friend, I think Parvat Muni, if I recall. And he wants to show him his disciple, who was formerly a hunter. So Narada Muni is visiting the little hut where the Mrigari is now living with his wife, peacefully chanting, you know. And you get the vision, there's all kinds of bags of rice and dal and things, because people are coming in to give gifts, you know. And so he's taken care of. So, but he sees Narada and Parvat coming from a distance. So he jumps up and he's waving his shawl, you know, his chadar. And he's coming to see him. But as he's coming, he's wiping the path because he doesn't want to step on any ants. You know, he's just so Parvat Muni is telling Narada, use amazing power, you transform this hunter into someone who wouldn't even step on an ant, you know. So Narada is very important. In fact, the beginning of the Bhagavatam, he comes and he speaks to Vyasadeva, very important instructions about writing the Bhagavatam. Prabhu would often quote those. And every cantor, he has a role to play. Okay, when we've used our time for reading the Krishna book. But let's see, there's still 4 minutes, so. We should, shouldn't we? But it's too late now. But tomorrow we'll begin Nectar Devotion. You just remind me, okay? I have 8:06 here. Yeah, we go to 8:15. All right, we have 9 minutes. Okay, all right. You're right. Okay. Nectar Devotion. Yeah, we don't want to neglect Nectar Devotion. Let's see, where are we? I'm supposed to have this. Okay, bookmarks. Yeah, that's the latest one. October. Is it possible? Couldn't be that late. September 21. Okay. So we're going through this 6 or 8, I think 6 different elements of devotional service. And one is the purity of devotional service. We're just starting that chapter. All of the previous instructions imparted by Rupa Goswami in his broad statements can be summarized thus. As long as one is materially inclined or desirous of merging into the spiritual effulgence of Krishna, one cannot enter into the realm of pure devotional service. Next, Rupa Goswami states that devotional service is transcendental to all material considerations and that it is not limited to any particular country, class, society, or circumstance. As stated in the Bhagavatam, devotional service is transcendental and has no cause. Devotional service is executed without any hope for gain. Cause means no material cause, no material motive. It's executed without any hope for gain, material gain. It cannot be checked by any material circumstance. Sound familiar? Ahituki apatayata. It is open for all without any distinction, and it is the constitutional occupation of the living entities. In the Middle Ages, after the disappearance of Lord Chaitanya's great associate, Lord Nityananda, a class of priestly persons claimed to be the descendants of Nityananda, calling themselves the Goswami caste. He actually had one son that survived, and there is a line coming down, but many claim to be part of that dynasty that are not really part of it. They further claim that the practice and spreading of devotional service belonged only to their particular class, which was known as the Nityananda Vangsha. Vangsha means a dynasty. In this way, they exercised their artificial power for some time until Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the powerful Acharya of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, completely smashed their idea. There was a great hard struggle for some time, but it has turned out successfully, and it is now correctly and practically established that devotional service is not restricted to a particular class of men. Besides that, anyone who is engaged in devotional service is already at the status of being a high-class Brahmin. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's struggle for this movement has come out successful. It is on the basis of his position that anyone can now become a Gaudiya Vaishnava from any part of the world or any part of the universe. Anyone who is a pure Vaishnava is situated transcendentally, and therefore the highest qualification in the material world, namely to be in the mode of goodness, has already been achieved by such a person. Our Krishna consciousness movement in the Western world is based on the above-mentioned proposition of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada, our spiritual master. On his authority, we are claiming members from all sections of the Western countries. The so-called Brahmins claim that one who is not born into a Brahmin family cannot receive the sacred thread and can't become a high-grade Vaishnava. But we do not accept such a theory because it is not supported by Rupa Goswami or by the strength of the various scriptures. Okay, so we'll begin there tomorrow. Is that okay? Now, if we do it right, if you remind me, we should actually read the verse at the beginning here. The verse, there's like an invocation verse, Nana Shastra Bhajadanaikanipano. And traditionally, I remember we used to have Nectar Devotion class after Bhagavad Gita back in Brooklyn. And then we'd always read that verse, and then we'd read the English. So we'll do that tomorrow, if you remind me. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Oh, the 18th of November?
Yeah.
Tomorrow?
Yeah, I think so. Tomorrow.
Yeah, we really need him.
Yeah, because he left on the 17th.
All right, so we're figuring a month.
Yeah.
What about Swami? No day back.
Oh, is it the 10th?
Like in our hands.
10th of December?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't hear too much. I was like,
I don't know.
I didn't get that.
Haribol! ISKCON Jai Ki Jai. Shri Radha Giridhari. Jai Jagannath Pradesh. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Jitanamine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Gauravani divine grace. ISKCON Gita Prabhu Jai. Jai Om Mr. Bhagavad Paramahamsa Pratikacharya Ashtotar Srimad Divine Grace. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Jai. Ananda Gauri Vaishnava Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Jai. Praise the Lord Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivas Hari Gaur. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shantan Radha Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadip Maya Purdhan Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Haridas Sankirtan Ki Jai. Chaitanya Bhakti Krishna Ki Jai. Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakti Ki Jai. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the Guru and Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Pretty good. Yeah. When did you learn? Well, it's all coming from my childhood. No, sir. I don't know. You like to walk around a little bit side with it. What's going on? I used to have this Moroccan drum. It was made out of clay. Lower East Side, walking around Compton Square Park, looking for some of the jam with. You used to do all their food. Yeah, I used to go out around with the food looking for the Puerto Ricans playing.
Puerto Rican.
A lot of Puerto Ricans then.
Really?
New York is full of Puerto Ricans.
Do you have a harmonium at your house?
I do.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
That's
Not a very good one, but it works.
I was thinking, because you've said a lot of times you could learn harmonium.
I could definitely learn harmonium.
I was thinking I could show you a simple tune, so when you travel and stuff, you could leave.
No. You open up a whole world.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't have, you used to play the flute.
Yeah.
But you can't sing with the flute.
Yeah. That's the one reason I gave up flute playing.
Oh, you play too?
Yeah, once through it.
You're not kidding.
I told you, I was just like, this isn't the same. It's not as nice in kirtan. It's nice.
No, it's nice.
Yeah.
So, Mukunda, it's so nice to see you. You're increasing our population by 25%.
Will you take anything?
Oh, I'm going to take a lot. I'm stuck. I mean, probably not. Not take it. What are these? These look like lotus.
Lila Shakman.
Yes, I'm going to take as many as the lotus.
But she put too much butter, so they're very melty. They're very melty.
Who otherwise cooked?
I did.
Grace.
Oh, you cooked?
Yeah.
So I'm trusting it's not too hot, spicy.
Hope not.
Did you put 80 chili?
I did.
Okay, so
No?
I,
All right,
so
take a
last
little
week
bit.
you told me you had more spice and more salt, so I don't.
Well, salt is one thing. Anyway, let's see how you did.
we know.
You don't mind?
I know it's yourself for engineering, and we have to be very careful with the spice.
I'm also super sensitive to spice. That's my fault.
Well, that's good. That's good. That's hopeful.
What is
I
that?
got a chunk of salt.
No, it's not the salt. It's just got a little bite to it.
What kind of bite? Turmeric bite?
Not turmeric.
Ginger bite?
Oh, is that why you put it turmeric and ginger?
No.
Chilies.
Oh, really? Yeah, very little chili.
Well, what kind of, is that one of the big chilies from the whole thing?
Yeah, those green ones.
Doesn't it?
I don't think we just told me to add this much just because sometimes they're more spicy, sometimes they're not.
Because recently we got.
All right, I'm a freak. Any little hot spice.
So this time, too much chili.
To me. But I mean, someone is out. That's right.
I have to have someone taste it. So, can you try it? Taste